Next up, we've got a panel on the need for seamless new user adoption. As a longtime UX person, this is what the community's needed for so long. Really excited for what you have to say. Take it away, Eric and panel.
All right. I'll sit here next to Yuan. All right, amazing. Vivian, that spot's for you. All right, what a time to be alive, guys. Thank you for joining. I'm super excited about this because I'm an ETHDenver on the main stage, and I get to talk with these leaders about a topic that I'm actually super passionate about, which is the need for the need for seamless new user onboarding for broader Web3 adoption. And I'll tell you the reason I personally am passionate about this is because I joined crypto like 2-ish years ago, but I still viscerally remember how fucking hard it was for me to learn anything, do anything super, super simple. And so I think this is going to be a super important topic, and I'm excited to go deep with these people here. But before we do that, we'd love intros of who you are, what you're working on. Maybe we just go right to left.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wow, this Mark works. Okay, so my name is Yuan. On the social media, I also go with Peter. So it's easy to spell, and I don't have to correct people's pronunciation. But a lot of people actually pronounce my name very well, and I'm very surprised. So I'm the co-founder of Metis. I'm also the co-founder of Nuvo and Nuvosphere.io. So I'm very happy to have this opportunity to chat with these very bright minds in this panel to discuss about the US experience.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Dr. K. I'm the co-founder of Quai Network. We're a new layer 1 that's a hierarchy of merge mined blockchains, which allows us to scale to 50,000 transactions per second on an EVM compatible set of chains, but maintaining the guarantees of security of Bitcoin. So I'm also glad to be here. Looking forward to the convo.
Nice. Do you want my mic?
Thank you. Hello? Okay. I'm Vivian. I'm from Optimism. I lead our partnerships with foundational partners, which are centralized exchanges, wallets, and infrastructure partners. So Optimism mainnet is a layer 2 scaling solution built on Ethereum. We also announced our vision for the superchain last week and had base launch on OP Stack, which is our modular code base. I'm very happy to be here and talk about this topic because every day I talk to wallets and I talk to builders and users about how we need to fix this experience.
Hey everyone, I'm Marek. Olszewski. I'm one of the co-founders of Celo. And Celo's origin story is actually one around the ease of use. We tried to build a really easy-to-use global Venmo-like wallet on top of Ethereum around 5 years ago, and we weren't able to get the experience that we wanted. And so that took us down the path of creating Celo, which is a fully EVM-compatible chain with a number of really nice bonus features for developers that makes it easier to build just really easy and delightful user experiences that are fully decentralized, fully self-custodial, but that are easier for end users to use.
Hi, my name is Kuberan, Marimuthu. I'm the founder of Cypher wallet. We're based in Palo Alto, California. We've been building this for a little over a year. It's a non-custodial crypto wallet on EVM and Cosmos. We're trying to solve a few problems in like user onboarding, which we're going to talk about more during this talk. We have an SDK that helps a lot of dApps like onboard new users and like handhold them through the onboarding process.
All right,
back to you, Eric.
What a crew, what a crew. Thank you everyone for the introductions. Okay, let's go on in. Q, first question for you, which is, I know a lot of people probably know this, but what exactly is so hard for new users to onboard into Web3? Like what is the specific problems and what's keeping everyone but the degens into the industry?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So before we talk about the problem, I also want to set some context talking about my personal experience in crypto, which was so relevant to answer this question. So I'm originally from India, where access to few lending mechanisms is actually controlled through which religion or caste you come from, right? economic freedom is like super broken in different parts of the world, right? And when you connect the dots and understand like how decentralized finance like empowers access to finance, right? That's so fascinating to me in first place. And another important data I want to share is like I spent like 7-8 years of my career, last 7-8 years, working for Amazon and Coinbase, building payment integration with banks that run on like mainframe systems and all that, right? If you connect both of these data points, I personally see that fundamentally, like the decentralized finance in first place is going to like completely replace the financial infrastructure that powers finance worldwide. And like that's always fragmented until today, right? Which means there are a lot of users who are going to be gravitated towards decentralized finance without even knowing that they're actually integrating with crypto because of the way decentralized finance actually solves fundamental problems with economic freedom around the world, right? So which means we are too early, right? Like if you compare this with the internet, I wouldn't have imagined if 15 years back, if somebody had told me my dad sitting in a tier 3 city in India would actually use internet banking without even walking into a bank, right? So it's taken like more than a decade to actually take this to even the traditional fintech to like the real world, right? So with this context, I want to talk about to actually take Web3 to like multiple billion users. I personally think we are actually 100 steps away, which means like everybody in this room, including people here, are going to like build different parts of the system, not only just the wallet, it's actually how the system, underlying system works and how it actually integrates with the rest of the world. And like technology is going to be a key step. That being said, I want to specifically talk about the immediate step that Cypher Wallet is trying to take, like in the journey towards the next decade of like building this is where, like when you connect with dApps, we're trying to like, after you connect wallet, can you like actually simplify certain parts of the flow where users can actually interact with the dApp, maybe a lending protocol where the interest rates are better than like what you would get in California to like get USDC without even like figuring out what Arbitra means and stuff like that. I'll leave it there and back to you, Eric.
No, that's amazing. I love that you mentioned the value prop of crypto and DeFi even outside of the US, right? The economic freedom. So I think one thing Brian Armstrong always mentions is that if we work at Coinbase in the US, you don't realize the economic freedom you receive here because freedom is quite high here. I think that's amazing. I do agree that new user onboarding is obviously really tough. I actually onboarded my mom last week and I screenshot her seed phrase, which is not a good idea. But maybe Yuan, this is the next question for you actually. I stalked your LinkedIn. You've been in crypto for quite a while now. How did we get here? I worked at Clubhouse and user onboarding is one of the first questions you asked, but how has it been like a decade now, but new user onboarding is still broken? What did we get wrong in the last bull run?
What will get wrong last bull run? Can I say FTX and Terra? Because that's the easy answer, right? But actually, deep down, there's a more fundamental problem that we have in this particular industry. So if you, for example, can I just say about crypto winter that we have right now, the bear market that we have right now, is actually not because of FTX, it's not because of Terra, it's really the liquidity, lack of liquidity we have in the market. Now the problem is, why is blockchain industry so affected by the liquidity? It's supposed to be a technology that can help change our life, change how we interact with each other, change how the data ownership has been done. But somehow we're still tied to the stock market. Somehow this industry becomes a pure financial market. This is something that fundamentally we haven't addressed since the start of the whole industry a decade ago. So at Metis, we do think that what we need to build is what we call the Web3 economy. Web3 economy, DeFi is definitely very important as the capital market, and that's how you exchange the resources, how you exchange the capitals, and how you allocate the capitals. But you also need to care about the users, consumers. You care about the producers. Those are the ones that actually produce values on the chain. And a lot of negligence has been done on the consumer part and producer part because most of the interest in this industry is on the financial market. And those people do not really care about whether you have a seamless user experience onboarding the application. A DeFi, what you said, right? So hey, you know what? If they can make money, they will endure all those inconvenience to finish every setup and make money, because that's what they want. Right? That's part of the work. But for regular users who want to enjoy the values created on blockchain, they cannot accept this. The gas fee is another barrier of entry, because if you want to use any chain, even on Ethereum, you have to get the Ethereum. On Metis, you have to get Metis. So you need some tokens to pay the transactions. Gradually, we have 4337 coming up, and we have recently implemented BRS wallet from the Ethereum Foundation. So those are the measures we can definitely help. Finally, I do think we need to expand this value proposition of blockchain industry. And my personal opinion, in the next bull run, I think the decentralized credential will be the next big thing, because I do believe it is the easiest way to introduce the blockchain technology to a mainstream adoption. Recently, we have worked with a partner who has basically running a Web2 application. They only spend 10 minutes to integrate with Nuvo and start using the decentralized credentials. I think there's a lot of potential here.
Oh, that's amazing. I do agree with you. Like, there needs to be a why, right? Like a use case beyond just making money in the financial markets, as you mentioned. It's funny they said make money, because I feel like I've been in crypto and I've only lost money. But you know, I guess some people make money, some people lose money. It's a 0-sum game.
The illusion of making money.
The delusion. Paper gains. Yes, I was an early investor, Shiba Inu, and put it right into Solana. So there you go. But actually, this is a good question or transition to Marek at Celo. I know you're working on financial prosperity for all. I'm curious, as you take these learnings from the past bull run in addition to the last decade of crypto, how are you encompassing that towards your mission statement? What are you doing differently this year during the winter as opposed to last year?
Yeah, great question. So I think everything in the Celo ecosystem is built with kind of the normie user in mind. We want to make crypto accessible for all. And we're doing that through a number of ways. I think first and foremost, Celo is built with mobile in mind. It has a ZK-like client that lets you sync on your mobile device really easily. And you know, that required thinking about consensus and making those changes early on when we were building the scalable consensus protocol. But beyond mobile, I would say there's maybe 3 things that we're doing that are really designed to make it really easy for people to get onboarded and off to the races. The first is around on and off ramping. The second is around making gas really easy for people. And the third is around phone numbers, using phone numbers as identifiers in addition to public key-derived addresses. So on the first, on and off ramp side, last year we launched Fiat Connect, which you can think of as the wallet connect of the fiat world, fiat on and off ramping world. It's an open API standard that allows wallets to connect with on and off ramps in a way that's fully standardized, fully interchangeable. So if a new on and off ramp comes up, a wallet can simply add a configuration change to their app, one line, and boom, they can add a new on and off ramp. And we think that's really important because in order to reach everyone in the world, we're going to need potentially hundreds of on and off ramps that all have local banking relationships, that all have the necessary MTL licenses. And it has to be really, really easy for wallets to integrate with all of these hundreds of different on and off ramps. And critically, Fiat Connect is a back-end API standard, which means that the wallet controls the UX. Ultimately, we're building for a world where when you're cashing into your self-custodial wallet, the experience looks and feels just like when you're connecting your bank account to your Venmo wallet here in the US. But instead of being powered by just one company, that connection can be powered by hundreds of companies and support hundreds of payment methods around the world. So that's on the on and off ramping side. But once you cash in, if people were to cash in with stable coins, on most networks they would be kind of stuck. And so one thing that we've been working on that's been kind of baked into the network from the beginning is this ability to pay for gas with tokens. There's a lot of talk about account abstraction this week. And we're really, really proud to have kind of invested in this kind of work really early on. And it's enabled this really wonderful experience where you can cash into a stable coin and then be able to actually use a DEX and buy an asset that you care about or access DeFi or buy an NFT. You effectively have the same experience that you have with a centralized exchange, but it's fully self-custodial and it's powered by multiple companies. It's very decentralized. And the third and final piece is something that we're calling Social Connect. It's a standard that's at the protocol level that lets wallets send payments to phone numbers instead of just to public key-derived addresses. And that unlocks some really nice usability features where you can send money to people in your contact list, not just to people who have addresses that you have to kind of maintain and kind of look up. And so if you're curious about how all of this comes together and what it looks and feels like, I would encourage you to try a wallet called Valora, which is on the Celo network and really does a great job of using these platform features to create a great experience.
That's amazing. I mean, I feel like I'm the negative guy on stage, but two side stories I'll share quickly is, one, I feel like I always try to buy crypto with a credit card, always get rejected. Then I try to connect my bank account, then it would take 5 days, and then again, I'd lose money on the coin. And then two, I always forget to save money for gas, always. And then I'm just stuck there. But I promise, I still love crypto. I'm obviously here for a reason. Dr. K, same question for you. I know you're building Quai right now, which is still in testnet, but going mainnet maybe later this year or next year. Curious how you're also encompassing sort of new user onboarding or making it much easier, more seamless as you plan for that full launch.
Yeah, so when we think about how we're going to actually scale blockchain and bring the value of cryptocurrency to the world,
Hell yeah.
We can really think about it sort of in 3 tiers. The first one's scale, the second one's use case, and then the third one's user interface. So at Quai, we're focused on scale in the base layer. So if we think about something like email, and we have this ubiquitous protocol, SMTP, that everybody can use with any client, we don't see that protocol. We just use it. If it's Gmail, if it's Proton Mail, doesn't matter. The problem that we have in the space in the base layer is that we have all of these scaling solutions, but they're all disparate, they're all siloed, and they're not all interoperable. So the first thing we have to answer is how do we scale in such a way that I can create a user experience that's like email, or I can create a user experience that's like going to google.com. The user of google.com doesn't need to know about the servers that are distributed throughout the world and the sharded databases and how they're running clusters to make that work for billions of people. All they do is go to google.com and there's enough back-end throughput to service the request. And that's what we need to see out of the base layer. And then the next question is, what's the real use case? If we think about DeFi, and we think about 1 billion users, if we're talking about finance, are there really 1 billion users in the world that are caring about finance? Is that the first use case? I would argue that the fundamental value proposition of crypto is we figured out how to transfer value. So what is a transfer of value? It's money. So the first use case that we should be looking at if we want to onboard 1 billion people is being able to function as money. But to be able to function as money, we have to go back to the first thing, which is scale. And then once we answer those 2 questions, now we have to talk about UI UX. And obviously that's important. So we have a lot of complicated technology, right? Multi-threaded, modular, hierarchy of blockchains, right? You can throw all those buzzwords out, right? And we shard context, and we have interoperable state machines. But to the user, I need to make the experience so they have one abstracted address, and I minimize their exposure to that underlying complexity. So we have shards, and we have sharded address space. So am I going to make the user have to understand 13 different addresses and figure out where they're going to have to operate, when they're going to have to operate? No, I have to create a seamless user experience that I abstract away from them so they have a single address and it looks like a bank account. So that's the third question. And obviously there's big pieces that we need to draw on that people have put together, like how do you onboard and offboard out of the fiat system? How do you make good wallet experiences? Do you use social onboarding before you force them into a seed phrase? Or you create a nice RFID or NFC wallet that they can use with their phone, right? And you can do this sort of in this incremental way to bring them into the system. But to start out, maybe it's just social onboarding. They don't have a ton of money, but they can get on and they can have a Venmo-like experience using a truly decentralized back end to function as money. And then once we answer that question, then we should start talking about DeFi.
That's amazing. I feel like I'm just becoming the poster child rather, of all the mistakes, but I also, per your address point, remember when I was early in crypto, I sent a lot of crypto to the wrong address and it was just gone. So if anyone's out there, you made that mistake, just talk to me. I'm sure I've made every mistake in the book for Web3. But I love this conversation, so it seems like, after hearing everyone speak here, except for Vivian, I have a question for you at the very end. But there needs to be a why, clear use case. It needs to be powered by a very powerful blockchain. But it also needs to be very user-friendly in terms of the gas. Do I need to even learn about gas as a user, about the bridging cube? I know you mentioned swapping and bridging, and do I need to really learn about all the bridges and chains? And I should just be here for the why, and it should be as seamless as, I don't know, entering Facebook if I want to send money or utilize a dApp. And I think that it's amazing to hear all these people really focus on that during the winter. Last question for you, Vivian. I know you have a very, I guess, how do I say this? You get to see a lot of cool partnerships as your role as head of foundational partnerships. I'm curious, as you work with people and at Optimism as well, how has the use cases changed? How are people thinking differently as you talk to people, especially during the wintertime?
Yeah, good question. I think as we talk about use cases, one thing that everyone here would agree on is that what we really need to have real adoption of Web3 and this crypto economy is we need to bring the next million, billion users in, right? And the next 100,000, 200,000 builders in. I think up to now, there's like less than 1 million users that are actually transacting on chain, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of the whole world. So how do we get there? I think when we talk about use cases, the thing that we're struggling with the most is we don't have standardization, and standardization is what we need to improve usability. And standardization comes across the entire tech stack, right? Everything from the front end, we've talked about wallets, down to the core code base of every single protocol. So we live in this world right now in Web3 where the analogy I like to make is that, right now we can go onto any browser and access any web page, right? It doesn't matter if you're in Chrome or in Firefox, like you can access any web page. But right now in Web3, that's not the case. We go to one network to access a handful of applications, and then we have to switch to another one to access another handful of applications. And everyone is fighting, there's this like zero-sum game where every community and ecosystem is fighting against each other. And at Optimism, that's just not how we see the future, right? Like that's not how adoption is going to happen. We're going to continually see this clunky experience for users where they're network switching, where they're bridging assets, and wallets are trying to do their parts, protocols are trying to do their parts, but until we unify and standardize, it's never going to actually get to the point where we have billion users in the crypto economy. So how are we thinking about this in Optimism? I kind of mentioned the superchain in my introduction. We see a place where there's interoperable networks across all layer 2s, right? And we're here as layer 2s, like we're trying to scale Ethereum. We believe Ethereum is the future of Web3. So we don't see a world where there's going to be, Optimism versus Polygon versus, Celo and whoever else, right? We want everybody to be interoperable so that we can have this better user experience, so that wallets can have a single front end where we abstract away the ideas of chains, of having to bridge assets, where the front end is just a place for users to be able to access any application that they want on any network without having to understand what a network actually is. In the near term, like how are we addressing that? That's a wonderful vision, right? I think everyone would love to be in that world, but we're not quite there yet. I think everybody's doing a little piece of that part. Everyone across from infrastructure providers to wallets and et cetera. I think in the near term, the things that we're seeing, like interesting use cases that people, more Web 2 users like, are things that are very low, I would say like low touch things that users from Web 2 are familiar with. So something like, I can see a tangible result of putting my assets into a liquidity pool because I can get 3% yield, which is much more yield than I'm getting in my savings account, right? Or I can mint an NFT and create an NFT and then be able to share that with my friend. And this allows me to have this community between me and 10 other friends. So these are things that we're kind of looking at that's like, not things that are like very net new primitives, but things that are very interesting to users that are not in the crypto world. Another area that we're deeply invested in is identity. Self-sovereign identity is something that we see as a really interesting use case for the right product market fit for blockchain. And identity can span across all kinds of different things. DeFi needs identity. No one wants to do, KYC is not what Web3 is about. And having portable identity across Web3 is something that we are actively, we want to build kind of the data layer so that other identity projects can come and build on top of us so that we can actually create a robust identity solution for crypto. Tactically, what some of the things that we've been trying to do, I think everyone's touched upon this like horrible onboarding experience from like buying assets like fiat on-ramps to having to bridge from exchange over to your wallet, and then from your wallet you have to figure out what you want to do. So we've been doing a couple of very fun things called quests. We had our OP quest, which is like an expansion of learn and earn campaigns, but actually incentivizes users to transact on chain. We also have a campaign going on with Coinbase that's going to be launched next year, which is also Quest-ish, which is guiding the user from the, someone that's really never done anything in crypto, from, buying something on the retail side, creating a wallet, bring assets over from exchange to wallet, and then doing a swap or minting an NFT or depositing assets into Yuan and getting a little bit of yield. So this is like, slow introduction of users into what they can do in crypto and the value. But ultimately, I think the larger vision is like we need to solve for the standardization, and from that, improve the usability for the next billion users.
Amazing. I love the gamification, especially since I'm a big gamer, and I feel like some form of gamification will help me learn basically anything. But I really do love, ideally, it being an interoperable world where I can be much more seamless, and hopefully next year when I'm ETHDenver, if I'm presenting, I have a lot fewer mistakes that I can tell everybody here. But I'm getting the big red clock that we're out of time. But seriously, thank you everyone for speaking. Hopefully this was enjoyable for you as it was for me, and thank everyone for the time.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.